Welcome to another episode of the Bhandwagon Podcast. And today, I'm kind of recording this on International Women's Day. So this is kind of my small gesture of trying to get this, get the movement going, or enhancing it as best as I can. My guest today is somebody who I've always kind of had an eye on, a trailblazer in her own way. And you always kind of spot these kind of outliners, and Rupinder Virdee is one of those. Rupinder, welcome to the Bhandwagon Podcast.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the really warm welcome. I know we were meant to do this before, and I was really unwell, so your patience with me was unreal.
No, it's fine, man. Because I think one of the hardest things is trying to get that logistically, getting the timings right for people's own lives and stuff. And this is kind of one of those annoying things where like I'll just be like, how are you? Is everything okay?
I they say things happen in threes. I'd put my back out, and I had a cold, but I had a really bad throat that I couldn't even talk. I lost my voice completely. And then I had an eye infection. And so I was like, right, that's God's sign just to say stop for 2 days, 3 days, and we resume. So it happens in threes, nothing more now.
How would you best kind of describe yourself in terms of the work that you be involved in? What would be a good starting place for you?
I get asked this a lot, and I feel like I've had probably 4 careers. and so I would say that I'm an entrepreneur, but what I really do now, and I've always done, and the focus of what I'm good at is strategy. So I would say as a strategist and the storyteller. So although my work has originally always been PR, I think that my scope and the way that I work PR has always been on a really lateral level. And then as we've moved from kind of an analog age to digital to where we are now with social advertising, social marketing, the same trail still kind of runs. You still need to have really good storytelling skills. You really need to have good strategic skills. And whatever business I've done, it's anchored in the music and entertainment all the time. And I had a little blip which we'll talk about. That is still run all the way through. So I would say strategy and storytelling is my bag.
And do you think like predominantly the kind of people who kind of listen to this podcast from say South Asian background, from like America, Canada, India, and the UK obviously, do you think as a community, let's say the Desi community, get these things completely wrong?
I respect that there is a model for that industry. And I can see some territories where they're really adept in that growth and implementing strategy, and then knowing how to work that market. And India is a really, really good example. India is a really good example of this because they do work strategically. They do have a model that works for their audiences, their communities, and it's very fast paced. And I can see how they've molded that for their territory. Outside of India, I think the model, with a lot of respect, I say this, is still very insular. You have your litmus test and say, okay, if I make it at, say for the UK, we live in the UK, so I'll use a UK example. If I've made it on the playlist at the BBC Asia Network, I've made it as talent, and I think we have glass ceilings, we have concrete ceilings, and then we create our own ceiling. And I think that there's scope to do more. We shouldn't be settling for what's good enough. There's a whole world of money to be made. There's a whole world of being seen, being included within, and I think that we as a community could explore that so much more.
Let's work our way up in terms of how you kind of broke in your field the glass ceiling. So when we first had this conversation, it was really interesting because it's one of those conversations that went from like it was going to be a high 30-second a minute. Ended up being like about 45 minutes on a car journey to. I don't know where you go with Dartmouth. I don't know. I'm just making it up. And you had this sense that you were like, oh, I didn't know what you wanted to talk about. And I just said, okay, let's just start at the beginning. And then all of a sudden, from the kind of stories that we're going to go through and where we're going to get to, it's quite remarkable. So in this area of kind of PR, was that an area that you always thought about as you were growing up to say, right, this is the industry that I want to get into?
I knew that I really wanted to work. I loved music and I wanted to find a career in the music industry. And I did like GCSE music, I did A-level music, I did A-level classical music, piano. And then I saw that this course was launching. It was one of the first courses that launched, and it was music industry management. And then you could choose your specialist, and I chose marketing. I didn't want to do PR, and I didn't even know, hand on heart, I didn't even realize that was a career option at that time. So I did this course. I absolutely loved it. I met some really great people. And while I was on that course, there was a friend of mine who was a year above me, and he'd already left and started working in the business. And we were really good friends. I think a lot of people had some issues with him because he was gay, which I think is absolutely unreal. Next thing I know, I'm working at Universal Records before I've even graduated. It wasn't like the nicest job, but it was a foot in the door, and it was in the press department. Right. So there's a company a long time ago, kiddos who are now living the digital age. We used to basically physically cut the features or the stories, even if it's a bite-sized piece, on the talent. And we'd get this, we'd work with a company called Shadow Facts. I don't even know they're still around. And literally cut that copy, stick it on a piece of paper, the title of the magazine, so that'd be like The Enemy, Bananarama, whatever, scan it, fax a book, and send it to all the departments. Like, I was just glad that I had a job in the industry. And that's when I started really working. And this guy moved on to work with another company who's run by the head of press of EMI, JD Dunleavy. And she took me under her wing. And everything I know about PR was from this woman. She was working with like D'Angelo. I think she worked with, can't remember now, Robbie Williams was a big act, and Louise Redknapp. And the first campaign that I ever worked on, I didn't even know how to write a press release. She said, here's Louise Redknapp. We're doing a nationwide tour with Asda. Get onto regional press. And I was like, oh my God, how do I do this? And I was just thrown into the deep end, and I created that campaign. And that's where I learned the art of storytelling outside of what just the music was.
Your course that you started on, which was the music industry management. Yeah. Like, firstly, how was that perceived from like family wise? Because that's not the kind of standard kind of, especially back there, the DC kind of line to go down. And the other bits was the stuff that you were learning, because you said it was a new course, relevant when you got into the practicality of working on Louise Redknapp's as the tour.
I don't even know how I winged that with my parents. My parents are so cool, it's unreal. Like, my parents are so supportive of everything, and it was such a non-issue. They were like, she's doing a degree. Even now, I said, I bet if you ask my mum, what does Rup do? She probably, the music de vich kuch kar diya, pata nahi. So, like,
well, if you got PR, the R's right, you can just change the P into a D and it's a doctor. So that's close enough.
So I don't know how I got with that. I think, I worked really hard. I paid my, for myself through university and stuff. I had like 3 jobs, all of that. Right. So I don't know how I got away with that, but they were really supportive. And then did I learn the skills that I needed to work in the music industry by doing that course? No. it was a brilliant experience, and I learned a lot generally about marketing. But I think the architecture of that course, and I don't know what it's like now, but potentially it's very old school. You know, you're learning about theory, and when you take that theory and put it into the actual live space that you're working in, who cares? It's like, what are we doing now? How are we developing now? How do you do marketing data analysis? How do you make the data and convert it into a decision-making process? That wasn't there. So no, it didn't help me. But what did help me was networking with those people and being friends with those people, because they're all working within the entertainment industry. And I suppose it was almost like maybe we were guinea pigs for the course. And I know the university is doing really well now, and the courses have developed, and it's huge. But when I was there, we were on a tiny little course campus in the middle of nowhere. I mean, look out the windows, sheep, and then we're learning about the music business. So yeah, I think courses have come on a long way since then, but I think at that time we were probably guinea pigs for it.
And then, like, what was your first? You get told, Louise Redknapp, what's the first thing that you do at that point?
Panic.
Yeah.
And then
that's okay. It's okay to panic though, isn't it?
Sorry?
It's okay to panic though.
Yeah, it's okay to panic. And you know, my friend was still there, and I literally, I'm really analog, and actually for years and years and years, my Instagram and all my social profiles were analog girl for a really long time, and I've refreshed them and grown up to call myself Rupinder Virdee. I got pen and paper. I got massive. I have a love affair with, you know, large sheets of paper, A2 paper. Put it down in front of me and said, okay, what do I need? Well, we need the press release. How do I write it? Okay, let me start. There were examples on file, and you know, then Jodie checked them, and I had to literally search and create a regional database of all the media that were at every ASDA all around the country, and then national press, and just call them. And Ricky, honestly, it was the scariest thing when you call a journalist and they do not give a crap about who you are until they hear what they want to hear. So as I was making the calls, I was developing my elevator pitch to them. So instead of saying, oh, I'm so-and-so calling from so-and-so, because they don't care about who I am or where I'm calling from, got a story about Louise Redknapp that's coming to your area. Okay, I've caught their attention. Then we can, you know, look at the conversation. So that's where you kind of and it's really hard to get knocked back as a young kid, you know, dealing with journalists who just don't care because they get pitched 11 million stories a day. So figuring that out, I really enjoyed. And I still really enjoy that. Give me a problem, I'll solve it. Like literally, give me the problem, I'll solve it, because the way my brain operates, I can see things in front of me, and I can see how to join the dots.
Yeah.
And I really love doing it. I really love doing that part.
So then from that experience, I'm guessing it went really, really well, and then you got praise for it, or what was it what was the areas that you learned very quickly?
Yeah.
That one? You talked about the elevated pitch, but what did you take from there to go into kind of the next bit? And the reason why I'm going into this bit is to try and give a picture to people out there in terms of like the formulaic kind of structure of how PR, press and market, all this is out there. It's not just as simple as nowadays where you just see someone's put something on a feed. Now there's actually art and science with it. Yeah.
So I learned a lot, because that's where you learn strategy and why you've got to be focused on what you want to do, and how you look at things in with a wholesome view and the whole circle. And I don't think publicists get enough kudos for the amount of hours that go in. So if you look at it as a formula, early stages, you end up putting a lot more hours than what you do get for your actual output. But if you're looking at a long-term strategy, you know, that work really counts. So really small things like making sure your talents, their records are being reviewed. and DJ magazine, and it's a tiny little piece, but that joined up with something else leads to a feature story, which leads to TV, you know. So it was like that hard work really amounts to everything. But what I learned and took away, and I still have to this day, is relationships. I took a break from music, and then when I came back, I was working on a project, and I thought, oh, let me just call a few journalists, and I did, and they still answered the call. They still made time for me, and that is purely based on that two-way relationship. Like, I gave them respect, I gave them time, and it was vice versa. And those people are now at completely different spaces, you know. Those people are in higher positions in within organizations. So that's something that I really learned to kind of keep up with.
And that's the value of the difference between having that small feature as the output, but the outcome is the relationship and managing those. So when you pull on it, it's there.
Yeah, completely. And you never know when you're going to need people in life, and just generally in life, you know, keep relationships clean. They're either black or white. There's no gray area. There is no gray area with me, and I think that's why some people love me and some people don't. But I'm fine with that, you know.
I think that's just generally life anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
You're not gonna be, that's in work and in personal. You ain't gonna be able to please everyone. What was your next kind of some of your memories back then as in that bit on other projects and who with?
Yeah. So then JD changed their company to change a company name to Arrested, and then one of my girlfriends joined on, Charlotte Clark. She did a stint at head of publicity for Channel 4 Entertainment, I think it was, and then now is at Inferno PR, and she's amazing. So we started really developing the proposition. So and this was like we really had just started, that digital media scene had just started, and people didn't know. It wasn't really, I don't even remember it being called social media then. We were using words like peer-to-peer sharing, and you know, yeah, it was wild.
You could tell that's like LimeWire days or Napster.
It was exactly that time. And I was really getting involved in that scene, and then our circle of friends were becoming to be like in those positions. So I had a friend who was like head of music at Bebo, then had a friend who was head of music at MySpace. So then I was trying to say to my boss, look, we really need to move into digital PR. She's like, what is that even? But gave me the scope to look at developing that. And the first artist that we had that I was really allowed to kind of build a digital campaign with was Miss Dynamite. And Naomi she's coming back with a brand new album. There was massive like spend on it.
That was when she was peak, like with respect, like, you know. Height of fame.
Yeah, it was massive, and everyone was really excited about it. And then, you know, I remember in a meeting we put in like my hands up going, oh, we should explore online 35-40 different interviews, because people were hungry at the time. You know, I'm talking about like even like Jamal, like, you know, bless him, he was like super hungry, and he was there every kind of opportunity, even when he would create that opportunity even when there wasn't an opportunity, you know. And I think that time was really exciting because I felt like we were developing something. So yeah, Miss Dynamite was one of the big things at that time, was really exciting to kind of grow with. And most labels at that time didn't even have a digital division.
Were you operating in the same sphere as Jamal Edwards was at that time, or?
Yeah, Jamal was brilliant. He was a young kid. I remember the first time I met him, and we were doing a press call with D12. So I was looking after D12, and I remember him just turning up, and he had like a camcorder just on his own, no crew, nothing, and he was just always emailing, this is me, this is what I'm doing, I'm building SBTV. And there was an event that they were doing in Camden, and I was like, yeah, go for it, here's your pass, do your thing, you know. And I remember like every conference, no matter who the talent was, what was going on, Jamal was like the first person to respond, the first person to email. I'm just trying to think if there was anyone else that was really on it like that.
And you, like
Charlie Sloth was really on it. I remember we were doing like, there was D12 were doing a press conference. We were putting it on was at the Academy in Islington, and I didn't really know of them at that time, and he turned up with Pro Green, and they had like CDs and mixtapes and stuff, and they weren't being let in or something like that, and I'd just gone out to be on the phone, and I'm like, yeah, come in. Come in, sit down. They gave them the mixtapes, and we were playing. I remember playing the band playing the mixtape in the car on the way to like the show. So yeah, like I remember Charlie Sloth's name from then, and then Pro Green, and look at those guys now.
And like you just casually. I know you're not like this anyway, but you just casually just dropping those names, and these guys are massive. Like D12 at that time.
Yeah.
No, just that was crazy.
There was another time that I was when D12 came over, and Eminem was doing, I think he was doing Tea in the Park, and we had to get like these t-shirts. He wanted like t-shirts and clothes. So I'm like calling everyone. I remember calling D-Boy. D-Boy is legendary, and he was like, "Yeah, don't worry, Rup, I'll get these t-shirts sorted for you." And I can't even remember if they're Money. Do you remember the Money brand?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they sent some t-shirts. We sent them up for M. I can't even remember if he wore one, but I was massively pregnant. I was heavily pregnant, and I remember we were going to a hotel, and these like huge rappers and little me, massive belly, and they're holding my bag, like my laptop.
So you bring your own entourage.
Yeah, such a scene, and they're really good guys to work with. I'm still in touch with them.
Okay, so how do you manage like egos, especially like that? Because you can see these guys are predominantly guys in this bit, which are the examples that you just said. They're huge. They get in anything that they want. Their riders are probably ridiculous. How do you kind of manage to? What's the most ridiculous rider that you've ever seen?
I'll be honest with you, the bigger the artist is, the smaller the rider is, unless they're like J-Lo, and I've never worked with J-Lo. I think my business partner Ben's worked with J-Lo, but I mean, like, these guys did nothing. It was just like, water, can we have water? Food, just give them food and water. Honestly, like, I can't think of anyone. I think Daniel Bedingfield had like a crazy rider once, like specific fruits and specific drinks or whatever. I can't think of anyone that's got a crazy rider. I'll be honest with you, most people ask for, they see people is like the riders are alcohol. Music artists, I haven't seen anything wild. I'm going to think about this all night now. Like,
see, that's it. It's because you've never been asked this.
Yeah, no, never.
Crucial question.
Yeah.
So like, you're dealing with these kind of artists and going on there. Is your in terms of the way that you're seeing things, are you happy at that point? Because like, obviously you're riding the wave alongside all these bigger artists. You're getting bigger and bigger, and as you're getting bigger, there's more and more demands that are coming onto you, or the business starts expanding and your relationships are getting bigger. You got family pressures there now. You just touched it. How are you managing everything?
It's difficult to manage. It's not easy. But one thing that I learned a really big lesson, which was trust no one to treat you the same way that you treat them, and also limit what you give to people, because at that time I was giving and giving and giving, and so much of my time, like, you could call me anytime, I would respond anytime, because the media industry work like that. If there's a news story, you've got to be on it to deliver on that news story. You've got to be proactive as much as possible, but it does get really tiring. My biggest lesson was just not to give yourself too much, and also not to trust anyone. And I think, like, when the difference is when you're working in that business and you're seeing famous people a lot, when you're in a room talking to them about work, they're very regular people. You know, unless it's someone crazy like Kanye West, I can't imagine what those conversations are like. But actually, they're the celebrity and stardom and the performance part of what they do is very small in comparison to the amount of hard work that they do. When they're sitting at a table with you, it's like, okay, what are we doing? How are we doing this? When are we doing this? What, you know, it's very work based, and then you see them as a person, and there's none of the you know, people say like don't meet your idols.
I've said that quite a lot on here, you know.
Oh yeah. Before you don't meet. One person that I haven't met and I had the opportunity to meet was Erykah Badu. I was a massive fan, still am, you know. And I can't even remember the guy's name now, but he was managing her in the UK. She came over. I think she played the Academy in Brixton. We got to watch the show from like backstage from the side. And then she came out and he's like, oh, you know, this is Rupinder. And I just like, I couldn't even speak.
Starstruck.
Like, yeah, fully. And everyone was like, why are you getting starstruck? Like, but for me, that was major for me.
Was she late? I could be totally wrong. Was she late 90s or early?
Yeah, kind of late 90s. She had a vibe before, and then she released On and On, and then you know, I think like you kind of love those artists or you don't. You know, that was like a moment. And then I had an opportunity to meet Zach Mama at the Jazz Cafe, and that was like two moments I was just like beyond. Yeah. Oh, and Prince. Sorry, Prince.
Oh yeah. Let's just drop that in there. Yeah.
My best friend Michelle Escoffrey is so dope. She's a songwriter. She's an award-winning songwriter. Ivan Novello's, you know, she's president of the PRS at the moment. And she used to run a night called Kindred Spirit, and I met her when I was doing PR. And when I decided to leave that PR company, she said, she was the first person that said to me, will you still continue to do PR for me and with me? But prefacing that, when I was leaving, she'd had a meeting at our office, which was in Covent Garden. And I'm thinking, how am I going to tell her that I'm not going to work here anymore? How am I going to tell her? And I was like, stressed. We walked all the way down to the train station and the Central Line, eastbound and westbound. And we were standing right there. It was a real sliding doors moment. And then I said, Michelle, I'm leaving Arrested PR. And so she was in shock. And then like, without a doubt, she's like, yeah, but we're still going to work together, right? Let's work together. That was my first client, my first sort of real kind of, oh, I can do this on my own moment. But anyway, so she used to run a night called Kindred Spirit. I became a partner in that night. And it was the largest live music event in London that did anything about, well, really like, you know, Black music, poetry, art, bands. We had a full live band. It was amazing. And we started smaller nights, and we started looking after this lady called Marva King. So Marva King is a singer and a songwriter, and she was part of Prince's band. And we did live nights with Marva, and it was amazing. The respect was amazing. We did like Q&As with her. No one had really done that kind of model where you have a live acoustic set with somebody and then a live Q&A.
The intimacy,
yeah. And funny enough, the nights were called Intimates, and they were based on like that empty plugged. Exactly.
You need me.
And she said, look, she's like, oh, she used to call me Miss Rupinder. She's like, Miss Rupinder, I got someone I want you to meet. Oh, the worst American accent. And so she's like, Prince is doing 21 dates at the O2, and I'd love you to kind of like meet him. I probably went to most of those nights. He turned up at one of the nights that we were doing with Marva, which was the ACLT ball. I'm sure like most people know what the ACLT ball is. And I remember this moment, and she just whispered to me, she's like, you know, our friend Prince might turn up, so I need you to handle security. I was like, okay. She said, if there's one flash, he will leave. I remember saying this to me, this is one flash, he will leave. So there's a huge like dinner, it's a proper ball. she's on stage. The band, actually, the drummer from the band was now a singer from JLS. You know, the one who's got the farm.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm not that big a fan to know their names, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Anyway, so I don't know. No, it's not Robin.
I don't know.
But anyway, so I get this like nod from the security guy, and I'm like, okay, nod back. And then I just see Prince walk through like this back fire exit, coming around to the back. So he's got the perfect view of like Marva, and someone flashed. Someone got their phone out, ching, and he just tipped his hat and he just walked straight back out. Unreal. Yeah.
Did you ever get a chance to speak with him, or?
Words wouldn't come out my mouth. I was face to face with him like a bunch of times, and he's very polite and very nice. And they all had like, he had his own like pastry chef and stuff. Like the OT was something. He would do like a whole concert and then do like pretty much another concert straight after at the Indigo O2. You don't know who was going to turn up. It would be like just him and friends, and then the one night like Amy Winehouse was there. And then like he just have friends that just jam. But it was I don't know where the man got this energy, but he would literally do a whole concert and then practically do another concert after that. Unbelievable. He was managed by this lady who I massively look up to, called Kieran, and she has an agency called Kick It, and she is also South Asian. And I was just in awe. You know, I've met her like recently, you know, fangirled all over her. But yeah, she's South Asian and she managed Prince. I mean, incredible, right?
I mean, there's just so many elements to kind of process and trying to digest, and just trying to find the right question. I'm probably having your moment now when you actually when you actually met him. But was there anything that when you were in his company that you could tell set him apart from everybody else?
Everything. Energy. Like, I think it's respect. People have a complete different level of respect for him. I don't know many people that will be like approach him. I don't think people even of a really high level could just approach him if you weren't in his inner circle. I just think people are in incredible awe. I don't think there's many artists. Maybe there are artists now, but very few and far between that you would feel in awe of. You wouldn't have to be a Prince fan to be in awe of him. Period. You know, legendary status.
I'm just gonna shout out Bobby Friction, because if he's listening to this bit, I know he's probably just collapsed. So yeah, I'm just giving a head nod to him. Yeah,
Bobby gave me a lot of time, man. Bobby still gives me a lot of time. I met Bobby. This is how I met Bobby. So I used to have to do some Nihal. I love Nihal. Mad respect for Nihal, because when I was doing music PR, he had his TV show at MTV, and I remember like we used to have to run DAT tapes. I don't know if people know what DAT tapes are, but we used to have to run them up to Camden sometimes and just like hand them in so MTV would play the videos. Mm-hmm. And I was looking after the press for Timbaland. And
just another name, Timbaland. Yep.
And there was a track on the record they were putting out called Indian Flute, and everyone in the office just looked at me like, "Well, you're brown, you're Indian, like work it, girl, work it." And I was like, "Oh my god, I don't really know anyone Indian in that scene." Actually, I did know one Indian person called Mango Saul, and he's dope, man. He was like my closest friend. We're still friends. He was a writer at Smash Hits. Do you remember Smash Hits magazine?
Yep. Yeah. I'm all of a sudden I'm getting like Saved by the Bell, Hanging with Mr. Cooper, California Dreams.
Yeah. So like he was Asian, so we connected. Anyway, so my boss said to me, "Oh, you need to meet Nihal." So two brown people in the industry connect. We're both on that, like, you know, the black music side. And Nihal really opened my eyes to this whole Asian scene, like whole desi scene of like Asian radio, Asian press, TV, like literally it was eye-opening. And he introduced me to Bobby Friction because they had that show.
Yeah.
And at that time I also met Mentor, and then I remember like Mentor was commissioned to do a remix for Indian Flute, and I was also looking after John B around about that time, and then I know Mentor did a remix for one of his songs as well. And really nice guy. And so Bobby, I would have ideas and I'd just go to like Bobby in the heart and say, look, I'm thinking of doing this or thinking of this interview. I don't think I ever got a knockback once. Even to this day, so I'm co-managing an artist called Virdee. He's an R&B singer, but he's Punjabi. And it was just one call to Bobby. He said, look, I know this might not be your bag, but it might be, but this is what I'm doing. Gave him the pitch. And I had like immediate support, you know. I used to sneak into Talvin Singh's club nights and Bobby used to play there. Anoka, fake ID. Yeah, man.
Did you pay entrance?
Yeah.
That's fine then.
yeah. Like fake ID, but I
just want to catch something what you just said. You know, like your natural instinct wasn't open up to the whole desi market. Let's just put it that way. I'm just categorizing it in that side with the PR.
But even generally, like musically, like it wasn't something I would listen to.
Exactly. So your natural instinct wasn't going that way. It was this bit. Like if you got somebody like Virdee now, and you know, you said he's from a Punjabi background.
Yeah.
Do you still feel that the natural base shouldn't be there? Do you think it's just you're just aiming for mainstream and then if it, I don't know how to say this, like I don't mean this in disrespect. No, not in a disrespectful way, but if it doesn't work out in the mainstream way, the desi market's still always there to try and.
No, not at all. Not at all. I think we should be able to choose whatever industry we want to choose, regardless of our creed. Period. If you are a K-pop singer and you're Ivorian, it shouldn't matter. Virdee is an R&B singer that loves R&B music. He sings R&B music. That's his life. That's his force. Like he lives and breathes that. He just happens to be Punjabi.
Right.
End of. So the world that he's got to live in is that black music world, is that R&B world, and that's his audience. Saying that, why shouldn't he also be? There's so many desi people that love R&B music. You go to Bhangra night, half of it's R&B music. I feel that South Asian kids who would like his music might also love Bhangra music, might also love drill though, might also love something else. And it's about representation as well. If we can have, you know, Jay did it, Raghav did it. I worked with Raghav. I haven't worked with Jay before, but it was exactly the same thing. They just happen to be brown.
AP's doing it now. Like he's got that kind of crossover, but obviously he's still singing in Punjabi. But I just feel that the time, how the markets and how everyone's doing, everyone's able to kind of stand on their own. And what I was trying to get at before was like, you could be for the art, but not necessarily concentrate on the identity. But you should be able to be able to use that. Yeah,
like we can't take the culture away from who we are. He will still eat dal roti.
Yeah.
Do you understand? And you know, his dad's got like his dad was a DJ, had a massive like black music collection. But then he did a little stint for like in a Bhangra roadshow. We can't take away the fact that we're Punjabi and our roots are Punjabi. We should be super proud of that. And we should work within that industry. We should embrace those people. But it doesn't mean that because you're Punjabi, you are only going to listen to Bhangra music. If he's their representative in an R&B scope and in that black music field, it's good for us, right? We have someone that looks like him. There might be another young kid, 10, 11 years old, going, do you know what? I want to be an R&B singer because Virdee is there. I can see myself in him. That's the future for me.
let me just flip it the other way, because obviously I'm not aiming it. I'm just talking about it in terms of
Yeah,
scenarios and that. Do you think that's one of the limitations that's happening, especially in the kind of the UK? Let's use the UK Bhangra field, where they're just really blinkered in one way and not really open up to try and look at what the rest of the world is.
It's a mindset thing, isn't it, Ricky? Like it's
That's what I mean by the limitations. Yeah.
I think you put on your own limitations. If your vision of success looks like, right, I'm getting my mortgage paid, I'm able to work as a musician full time, and I'm in the top 10 on the Asian network, and that's good for me, then you made it, bro. Like, you fully made it. If that's your box, you've made it. And I don't think like Bhangra music needs to cross over into mainstream. Make it big in your industry. Make it international. Think of all the Punjabi, think of all the Desis, all the people that are going to love Punjabi music globally. Make that your business. If you want to travel, want to get out there, do the connects. Don't let ego get in your way. But it doesn't mean like we haven't, by make it in the mainstream industry, it doesn't mean like we made it.
Yeah.
You know, you create your focus of what you've made, like what is makes you happy, and you made it.
And is that something that you kind of, that philosophy that you kind of, like, obviously clearly already the amount of knowledge that you got, you can see Veros is getting a really good grounding, a good, you know, headset, a good in terms of vision wise. Is that something that you consciously have to work on an artist to try and help them see they'll have their own vision, but then there's a difference between vision and strategy, and that's what your experience comes from.
Yeah.
Is that what you have to try and re-emphasize, especially if they're going through a bad patch or they're going for a good patch? You're just saying, look, this is still the overall objective. Yeah,
it's difficult. I have my experience, but I also learned a lot from having really good people around me, like my business partner Ben Winter. He's been managing talent for a long time, and you forget artist management, talent management is really difficult. Working with creatives, you have to look at which part of like how creative they are on a spectrum, because you can be absorbed in a creativity and not be able to monetize it. You can be absorbed in a creativity, but it's you can't get it to your audience and your market, you know, and like that guidance, that compass of guidance, it always comes back. And then things, you know, Veros is going to be a global superstar, no doubt about it. Come back to me in a year, we'll have this conversation and you'll see that, because there is a formula, there is a strategy. It's having those people in place. When the dominoes go, it will happen. But you need good people around you. You know, the unstoppable team that I'm with. Like, if I don't know something, there's someone within our team that is the best at that. You know, but managing expectations with talent can be a real challenge. But if they trust you, it can really, really work.
And it comes down to that. It comes down to that trust, isn't it? I think that's the most important word. Yeah. When you were working with Timbaland, Missy Elliott, and stuff, was there a point where you said, like, because you did take a break away from this? What was that moment for you when you said, right, I can't carry on this?
The moment. So I moved from doing like so much music press into events, which I really loved, and Bally from Bally Witchlist. I don't know if you guys people know him on Instagram. He played a role in kind of me shifting into events, and we'll come back because the Cray Twins are a massive part of my history, and we can't like skip on that. But Bally called me.
Go for them.
Yeah.
You want to start there? You can. It's all right.
I'll do the Bally story, because then it will tell me, like, it will tell you why. So he called and he said, I'd love for you to meet my client. We're going to be in London. I went down and met the client around the world. So the first one was going to be in Cannes, and then we're going to move over to Monaco, and we did the Cannes Film Festival, and it was great. So during the daytime, it was a bespoke built pop-up club. So during the day, it was for press conferences. So we did like Justin Timberlake press conference, Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan is
Jackie Chan is on one of my bucket lists to meet in my life.
Oh,
by hook or by crook, I have to meet him. So if anyone can hook that up, let me know.
Nice, like had time for everyone, and everyone went to see him. So anyway, like during the day, it was like a pop-up, like almost like a business networking club where these talents would do the press launches and all of that. And in the evening, we would have like other talent, like so we'd have like Mark Ronson or Cassie Redfoo and Paris Hilton, and you know, so it was quite different. And I remember working so hard on that, and then we were this moment will never leave me. My son was he was a couple of years old, Virdee, he was tiny, and it's the first time I left him. I was leaving him for about 10 days. We were on this super yacht,
as you do,
in Monaco, and we were having a party with Red Bull and the racing driver. And oh my God, Emma's going to kill me because I can't remember. I forgot his name when I was talking to you before as well. The racing driver who won that Grand Prix.
Hang on.
Anyway, I did not know what he looked like. And I was having a real moment on this yacht. We had a press conference on that top deck, a Red Bull party to celebrate, you know, who the winner was.
What year was this?
Oh, I can't remember. I'm gonna think of his name. It'll come to me.
All right.
So he's sitting there next to me, and I'm like, "Oh, hi. Would you like, you know, a drink or something? And you know, how are you getting on?" And just chatting. And I was like, "Do you know what? I'm just exhausted because I feel pulled left, right, and centre." He's like, "Oh, just go home to your family." I was like, yeah. You know what? That party ended. Red Foo from I can't remember what their band was called. They had a performance. We had like this amazing performance. In Monaco, you see the whole pier, got like aerial dancers going through like fire and hoops and all of that. Listen, Ricky, finished. I made a bag for you. I got to cab to the villa we were staying in, rebooked my flight, got myself to Nice airport, flight ready, came back, switched my phone off. I'm not doing this again.
That was
I was just done. I was burnt.
So it was the racing driver who we've forgotten. We're Jensen, but no,
no, it's not Jensen. We had this whole conversation.
I know we did.
No, let me just as we're talking, let me just Google him.
Yeah, let's see who wins. Well, what would really help is obviously the year.
I don't even remember. I mean, like, I'm so bad. Let me just put in like driving.
What I'm going to do,
my husband's going to kill me because he works on F1.
Here we go. I reckon I'm
Sebastian Vettel.
Sebastian Vettel.
You know
the amount of tags that I'm going to drop on this podcast to be hilarious.
Oh my God, it was so bad. It was so bad that I did, because I don't know. I mean, like, I'm not a racing fan or anything like that. You know, you just know like the big names like Schumacher and Johnson Platinum, whatever. There was like printed a list of names, pictures. I got the person's picture and I printed their name next to it, so I knew who the hell everybody was. So I didn't look like, you know, a langur, basically. But yeah, we skipped past this part, and it's really important because Bally was the one who introduced me to the Cray twins. And we've grown together because they were they were like the first project that I completely took control of. You know, before, even with like Tim and any of the others, like my boss was still there to kind of like help me shape it, or I did all the work on it, but she was still there. Do you know what I mean? And I remember Bally coming to our office in Covent Garden, and he's like, "You've got to meet these guys." And I saw these two guys with like Portuguese walk in, and Bally's like, "We've got this single, we've got this track." They had no expense spared. Like, they did it properly. You know, they had like a radio plugger, a TV plugger. We did press digital, and they had this track, and it was unreal. It was like with Twister, Lethal B, Gappy Ranks. There never has been, even to this day, a song that's had all of those genres together. And they killed it. Absolutely killed it. And I remember at that time, you know, and I say this with massive respect, like I've got mad respect for them, but it's like they're also going from producing stuff in their own world to now being in the spotlight. So, you know, my job was like, all right, we've got to guide them in how to do red carpet. Okay, when you do red carpet, this is what you do, this is how you talk to blah, blah, blah. When you do an interview, nothing is off the record. You only talk about this. Here's like our crib sheet of the questions they're going to ask you. This is the answer we got to give, right? And I think they learned a lot in that journey. I learned a lot in that journey, and we kind of grew together through that whole thing. And it was the first time that I reckon South Asian talent went global and mainstream with what they did. Which is really funny because the track's called What We Do.
Well, they got the red carpet treatment straight away.
Yeah. You know, one thing that like really winds me up, and it still happens.
You were going to say it was going to piss you up. I can see.
And this happened at the studio last night, and I just felt like, you know, because we were at like press conferences. We might be. I think we were at the Kiss Awards. They were opening the Kiss Awards, and someone came up to me and they were like, "Oh, you're right. I'm here with the twins." Da, 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 da. Instead of like believing that I was their publicist, he's like, "Are you the girl? Are you the girl from the video?" Like, is that all you? And I think it's so often and so evident in the industry where people will just presume that because you're a woman and you've got a bit of makeup on, that you don't have a brain. You know, we were in a studio. I'm not going to say the name of the person. We were in the studio yesterday, and really, really well-known, big personality. And on the end, it's all warmed up and everything's still cool. Like, we left on a high. But like when they walked in the room, it was like, hi, missed me and looked at someone else. I'm like, hold on, we've put together this session. I am management. I am part of this exec team. But just so that I was the only woman in the room. I don't know if men like glaze past you because they do it out of some level of weird respect. Like, oh, it's the woman, I should treat him. No, stick your hand out, shake my hand. I'm making this work. You're in my world. Let's just equal peg and have some respect.
But isn't like for you to kind of you've earned the right in to be in that room, to be ahead of that room, because you from your history, from when you were coming in there was not that many people like so, and that's why at the beginning of the podcast I said trailblazer, because you are dealing with different ceilings at different stages of your career to get to that bit. And you could obviously feel it disheartening that you think there's still elements of where I'm going back to when I was, you know.
Yeah, I think all women feel that. I ask any woman, they feel that, you know. And then if you talk up, you're a bitch. If you don't say anything, like, you're not worth your salt. You know, but there's amazing women doing amazing things out there, like really, really incredible. And it's just that those little moments ruin it. You know, really little moments ruin it.
So how do you try and safeguard that kind of scenario in the future? Because, like, you know, I'm not kind of well versed to kind of speak on that bit, but what would you how would you kind of prevent that? You're never going to prevent anything. You know, you can't prevent it.
I can manage it.
That's the better word. Yeah, manage it.
Yeah, I am unashamedly me. And you know, there is no real black and white with me. If I'm good with you, it's because we've got good relationship with me. If I'm not engaged with you, it's because we didn't connect, and like not in a negative way. It's just sometimes people just don't connect. Like, you do you, I do me. You know, you have to have the other half of the population to share your narrative. And you have to have the other part of the population to speak your name into rooms where your name should be, and support that. And there are people that Ben, I know I'm talking about him a lot, but you know, he champions women. He will champion women in rooms where their names need to be, whether they're there or not. And there are men that do that, and that men should continue to do that, because we should be judged on our skills and our knowledge and what we can bring to the table before what we look like.
Your phone switched off, after your super party at the yacht. You're at home. What did you do next?
I came home, and just before then, actually, I think there was a trigger before then. But I was working on South Asian films. I probably did that for about a year, and I hated it. I had this call from this company called Fox, and they had a film coming out, and they reached out to me and said, we'd love to have a conversation. We've got this film. And I told them straight off the bat, never done film PR. I only know old Bollywood people. It's not my thing. You've got the wrong company. You should speak to someone else. And they're like, no, actually, we like the way that you do things in that mainstream circle. And that's what we want to bring when we do this launch. And I'd met this guy called Tony Gill, who's dope, by the way, because he was a writer at for a gay magazine, but he was their music editor. And because his name was Tony Gill, I never knew he was Indian. I just thought he's just an English person called Tony Gill. And we used to chat all the time. He used to review my records because I used to work for Head Candy. He used to write and review all the records. And then we reconnected a while later, and he was at another PR company. Or he had just left another PR company, and he used to do film and Bollywood film. And I found out he was Asian and did Bollywood film. So I was like, okay, look, let's work on this together, because they want me to do it. I don't have that connection. I don't have the black book for South Asian film and Asian PR for that time. So let's work on it together. And we did that. And it worked. And we did really, really cool stuff. We had a launch for this movie called Race. It was like a trilogy. I think it was like Abhishek Bachchan and Saif Ali Khan, Kareena Kapoor, loads of people. And we created a whole theme and a campaign around it. And we did the press launch that was based on that theme at the Hippodrome in Leicester Square. I have not seen a bigger turnout for press and media coverage than we did that day. And it was purely because how the campaign was managed and sold. And we delivered it like how you do like a mainstream media launch, film launch, but it just so happened to be desi. But I fast realized that that was not my world, because it's big fish in a very, very small pond. And I started learning that someone who I thought was a decent person, a good friend of mine that had actually even helped me, started saying really mean things about me, siphoning money and stealing money and all of this kind of stuff. And it almost broke me, because I just couldn't understand how you could just take something that's work to a really personal level and just hate, Mary J. Blige with a hateration. It was like a full episode of hateration. And then I'd gone to Monaco, and I think that was the trigger really that made me go, do I really want to be in this world where everyone's just so fake? And that stopped. And then I took a break. And there was a couple of little businesses that I did. And then I was working with another business partner, and he saw a venue, a large venue that needed refurbing. And I bought that with him. And it was the Coliseum in Ilford. It's a large banqueting hall, done up immaculately. We spent so much on bringing it back to its glory, 1920 style, 650 seater. So I started doing events there. It gave me time for me to be with my family, because I wasn't working during the week. It did the weekend events. It launched a catering company with it. And it was successful. It's still successful. I've sold my share of it now to Jag, to my business partner, because you have to do what you love that gives you joy. I have to wake up in the morning and feel like it's a new day. I'm excited to be doing something. I'm excited to be working. And it worked. it worked financially. It's still working. It's a great business. You all should just go and get your inquiries in and book and book. But it didn't quench my soul the same way that music does.
And spirituality plays a big part in especially in, you know, the journey that you shared with us so far. And you did go down that road because you've worked on some you've, you know, you well, yeah, you're kind of responsible for, you know, a real kind of important news outlet within kind of the Sikh Banter, the Sikh community. I won't be able to do it justice, but I think that was the first time where we actually met. Was at one of those events. Can you just go into that for us a bit? So
I was in a bad way because I had a very, very difficult pregnancy. I was on crutches, and at one point it was literally like, you just got to be on bed rest. And I had a message, and I connected with Jagraj Singh, and I didn't know much about this kind of you know, that world, and he connected with me, and he said, I've got this idea where we need to, I want someone to do PR for the Banter, so talk about all our stories and really kind of like lift the profile. And we carried on speaking, and I was like, no, I can't do this. It's too big for me. It's not my world. I don't understand it. I'm afraid to make mistakes. I'm afraid to be a part of that world and not do it justice. And then he was quite adamant. And because I was unwell, he said to me, just start doing Bart. I only know at that time, I only knew Pelli Pori.
So this is Jagraj from Basics of Sikh.
Yes. The miracle that he is, you know. And he said to me, do Bart. I was like, I only know up to there. And then he got me into basics. I learned Japji Sahib, Darb Sahib. I literally like knit them through Basics of Sikhi. So, and then the more I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, you know, we could do this. And then my idea was, let's set up a news agency, like a actual press news agency that is apolitical from anybody else, any sort of different groups or sects within the Sikh organizations in the UK. And we had we will have 3 missions in 3 columns. One was to make sure that if there's anything that was reported within the news about the sitcom that was incorrect, factually incorrect, we would challenge that. No fear. We just go and challenge it the same way that you know, very, very well run press agencies for different faiths are, like, you know, the Jewish community have got a very strong press association and movement. The Christian community do, the Muslim community do, but our com didn't have anything. So we reshaped together what was his idea into a model that the mainstream media are used to dealing with. So, you know, the factual corrections and what we're doing, and act as a springboard between the Sikh community. So we've got the Sikh community giving us their story in their way, but we've got to then turn it into a formula that the mainstream media can digest in their way, and raise the profile of the community. So the one way that we did that initially was he said, let's not just launch, let's do something and show the impact, because so many people were like, oh, that's a rubbish idea. Oh, that's never going to work. Oh, edaki faida. And, you know, just, and then I had a lot of stuff that I had to deal with because, you know, I didn't look Sikh enough. You know, I had, like, I can't remember, I had short hair, I've got tattoos and stuff. And, you know, I didn't wear like salwar kameez. Whatever their issue was with me, they had an issue with me. And Jagraj Singh, like, fiercely supported me and said, no, this is what we're doing, and that's it. So we launched Langar Week, and it was a concept to show a facet of Sikhi that people didn't quite know about. And at that time, there was a massive. So this is how we navigated that space. Why should Sikhs know about us? What can we talk about Sikhi that will give us almost like a point of reference? And how can we do that and show the value in the Sikh Press Association before we launch. So one of the things was, if you asked Joe Bloggs on the street, tell me 3 things about the Christian community, about Jewish community, the Muslim community, they could whether they're into religion or not, they could say, oh yeah, they do this, or they wear that, or they pray 5 times a day, whatever. And they couldn't say much about the Sikh community. So we knew that we were not, there was no reference point for what Sikhs do, apart from we do good stuff, right? And so there was a news report that was launched around there about Britain being on the poverty line. And then we were like, how can Britain be on the poverty line? We need to tell people about Langar and Seva.
Yeah.
And that's how we created the narrative that we then fed into the mainstream media. And that was when I asked someone who I have massive respect for, Jasveer Singh. And Jasveer used to be a hip hop writer. And we met when he was writing. He did a lot of sports writing, but he was really into like music. And he covered loads of like my content. And I knew that he was kind of starting to, he said to me, like, I'm starting to get into Sikhi. Brought him on. The 2 of us did the first Langar Week campaign. Absolutely killed it. And then we launched the Sikh Press Association. So this is the value to the GOM, because we are now able to have one hub that mainstream media can trust for factual knowledge that's not skewed in opinion. It is very factual. And it's still, I mean, I'm not part of it day to day. I haven't been for a long time. It's run by Jasveer, and there are people that work with him and under him, and basics still make it happen, and it's still run on donations. That changed my life. That was a life-changing moment. Life-changing moment.
I remember when I first saw that, the Press Association is that kind of source of credible information, the fact checker place where to get it.
Yeah.
And when I saw that being launched, that's why I was at that event, because I had to actually go and see this for myself. Because I was highlighting, drug and alcohol, Punjabi use in the community, and there was no kind of avenue for me to go to get those messages out, because I could put something stupid up, I'd get X amount of likes. Something that needed to be shared, and that was just getting completely blanked. And I built up quite a lot of frustration at that time, and I think that's where we had our first kind of interaction, or where I was like, just, oh yeah, we've got this, go on, let's do this.
Yeah.
And we were like, no, there's actual methodology around it.
Yeah.
And then you did that, and you left there, obviously still got strong relations and stuff within there. And then you are a natural creative. What was the where's the end goal now in terms of what you're doing? You're part of Unstoppable, you're manager, you're a CEO there, and how did that come about?
I've known Ben for 18 years, maybe longer, I don't know. And he was at Sony, and he's worked with like really big names. Like he worked with like Destiny's Child early in the day, really made that happen, and I was part of that integral team that launched them. J-Lo, loads of big names. And we connected on and off throughout the years, all the time. So we were really close. We were working on, he had a magazine, working on that, moved away. And then I was consulting with an organisation called the London Week of Peace, and we're doing this, we wanted to do this really big concert in Trafalgar Square. So I'm like, okay, Ben, let's do this. And he's always been that one person that's solid in my whole career. Like, people come and people leave, but he's always been constant. And we lost touch because I came off all social media. I came off everything. We lost touch. And then when I went back on to social media, we reconnected at that time. And I remember we met at this pub in Stratford called The Cow. And we were there for ages and, really connected. And he was doing Unstoppable. And I just said, I don't have the bandwidth. I just don't. I'm invested in here, and I don't have the bandwidth. And then, but there was a pull. There's a pull for me to kind of want to do that. But I had to be sensible because I was running 2 other businesses. I was running College in Mala. And Verose was one of the key reasons that triggered me to move back into Unstoppable. I saw him online. He looked like my kid brother, and I remember he did a Justin Bieber cover, which I thought was brilliant. And it went. I showed my folks on our family WhatsApp, and I said, "Oh, doesn't this kid look like Burnham?" And it was like, "Oh yeah." And then I started finding out that Verose also went to the same uni that I went to. We actually have the same surname. And I just thought, okay, is this a sign? Am I overthinking it? Is this a sign? So I took him to Ben and I said, look, I think you should manage this kid. And I think that there's real scope for him. There's a gap in the market. There's been no one since Jay. There's, and before then there was no one after Raghav. And he was like, no, I can't. No, you do it. I said, I've never managed an artist completely. I've done the parenting as the PR and publicist. And he said, right, let's just do it together. And we're doing it together. And I'm, actually being part of Unstoppable. There's so much, it started a long time ago of like just talent, but we have an agency now. And the agency's bringing brand partnerships with brands that want to work with talent, and not just our talent, just generally talent. Music, entertainment, film, sport. And we have a studio, we do a lot of production. The production outfit Inc. are absolutely incredible. They come from a classical music background. They've not nominated for like a Sync Awards. They've worked with everyone from like Stormzy gigs all the way to like really up and coming talent, and then they've shaped off the cuff talent that's killing it like Nux. And then we look after Chantel Lee, who is incredible. She's half Singaporean, half English, pop princess, a really beautiful pop sound. There's global. These are the talent that we're managing are global. And then Verose is part of that camp. But I think he's always really been that anchor, and it gave me the faith to know that where I've always been held there with him, and he's spoken my name in rooms where I've not even expected it to be. I was pulled, and when it works, I'm waking up every morning going, yes, let's get it. What's happening today? Just this week we've been in the studio with Divine, who is unreal. Mark Stripple is working alongside us with Verose, and I'm just in a really good place. What I want to do is leave a legacy. I want to leave a legacy, and how that is going to shape up in the next couple of years, I don't know. But I want brown girls to know that if I want to do something, I can do it. And I can see people that look like me that can do it. That's what I want to leave.
I think it makes such a big difference when you even sometimes even strangers, where they believe in you, they say something and they've put their faith in you, just say like, you can do it, because you're going to naturally do that.
Yeah.
And one of the golden threads in all your story, everything that you shared today and what we've been discussing, is that you always had that one person who was believing you along that way, Ben being a fundamental part of it. But when you had your mentors and everything like that within there, in terms of, you've talked about legacy, so I ain't going to go about it from there, but just kind of looking at bit of moving forward, what do you envisage the kind of next sort of year, 2 years, up to 5 years would look like?
The focus is Unstoppable. I do consult, so I dip in out of things. So I was consulting for the Academy of Contemporary Music, which is also part of Metropolis Studios. Metropolis, the largest recording, mixing, mastering studio in Europe. I love working with creatives. I love working within music, and I love seeing things grow, Ricky. When someone's got an idea and they're conceptualizing something and you can see it grow. That's what I want to kind of be able to add my touch to and then move back. So my anchor is going to be Unstoppable.
Yeah.
We've got some really exciting things which bursting to tell you, but I can't. And I'm like, when I think about it on paper, it's so unreal, it makes me want to swear. Like, it's so unreal. But, you know, that is what is paramount right now. And I think we're going to change lives, we're going to change business, we're going to change models. It's really difficult, like when you know, people say it and then you go, oh, don't say it because if it doesn't happen, you know, but it's happening. It's just that I can't talk about it right now. So we're moving into different territories, but like, you know, Unstoppable is that future for me, you know. Verose is the future. .Inc are the future. .Inc are unreal. Like, I anyone that's listening to this or watching this, I just really want you to look at talent that's emerging, listen to what's around you, keep your ear to the ground, connect with people. Screw ego will not get you anywhere. Just work and find the right circles for you. But we're launching this year with these acts, and I've got great people around me, you know, like not only Ben, Michelle, again, best friend, speaks my name in rooms where I never even thought I could be, you know. I'm sitting at tables where I never thought I'd have a chair to pull up. JPL, who's again like part of Unstoppable. I mean, the stuff that I'm learning from her is wild. Ross looks after like label, the label side of what we do at Unstoppable. Learning tons from him. Chris, you know, we are a team.
Yeah. And
I just think that the future is bright, and I'm really excited for it. And I'm excited to meet more people. I'm excited, like, I don't think people should double think about hitting me up, you know. I love connecting with people. I love talking to people, arts, culture, music, entertainment, film. Like, we're all growing in that scene. We can all find something to work on. So I'm around for those conversations, you know. Some things will work out and some things won't, but I'm around for those conversations.
So I'm going to kind of bring it to a close at this bit now. Yeah. So I offer an opportunity to each of my guests to either jump on a bandwagon or jump off a bandwagon, or if they can't answer that, then is there anything that they'd like to get off their chest at this point? So this is your opportunity.
To get off my chest. Do not be dismissive. You don't know someone's journey, and you know, like in the music businesses, you're only as hot as your last record, okay? But don't dismiss people's knowledge and what they can bring to the table. See past your own inflection of ego and be prepared to offer the first hand. You know, no one's waiting to ask you anything. Be open to like opportunities, exploring, and conversations. We're all regular people at the end of the day. We are genuinely regular people. We face the same challenges. We all want to grow. We all want to build our networks and our businesses and make money and be happy in doing what we're doing. Do not dismiss a woman, period. And don't let like your ego stop you from growth. Like, I just see that all the time, you know. And once that ego's dropped, there's no, like, we all have challenges. You don't know the answer yourself. Ask someone. That's what I want to get off my chest.
Rupinder, thank you, man. And I'm sure this is going to be enlightening for a lot of people. And I really appreciate that, you know, taking time out and having this discussion, and this channel, this resource, whatever it may be, will always be open to yourself. So thank you. Anything that you want to do.
Yeah. I was so excited when you asked me to be on this. And when we and then when we started talking, I remember I was on the motorway and it was raining, and I could feel I was on the verge of not feeling well. But we ended that conversation, and I was so excited about what we spoke about, what you were doing, and how this is going. And I kept thinking, I walked into the office and I kept thinking, why have we never done this before? Like, I'm so glad we've got this podcast. I'm so glad that it's a safe space.
Yeah.
And it's cerebral and it's effective, and you know, I'm
Do you,
really,
do you
really
remember
glad to know that.
when we had the conversation? I remember when we first started it. I haven't forgot this.
Uh-oh.
When you said, "Oh, I've got a bit of imposter syndrome,"
Yeah.
and I was like, "Okay, let me explore this." And I just said,
Oh,
"Like, I'm just gonna go from what I know." And then that minute and 2 minutes just ended up being. I think even then, after we were messaging, I was like, still like, "Oh my god, I can't believe." I remember
yeah.
I rang up a couple of my mates, and I was like, "Do you know who?" And I couldn't even say like, "Do you know
Yeah.
these people?" And then it just got into that way. So I was like, I thought the concentration is to get this story out. It needs to be documented. It needs to be
Yeah.
legacy. It needs to be
Yeah.
done in this way because, there's people like yourself in other areas of expertise who deserve to have their narrative owned by themselves, be able to kind of be developed. And this is just one of a little small kind of platform for people to try and showcase their stories. Or
It's a massive platform, Ricky. Like,
yeah,
let's stop there. It's massive because if we didn't have safe spaces like this, we wouldn't talk about ourselves. The big difference is that you have people that my job is to publicize and raise the profile of other people. That has always been my focus. My downfall was that I never did that for myself. I never treated myself as a client. One of my mentors, he used to be a publicist for Hugh Hefner. And he said to me, we were at this event, and he is awesome. We were at this event, and he said to me, Rupinder, always carve out enough time for yourself to treat yourself as a client, and then you tell your story. And I didn't, and now you're telling me that story. You're telling my story for me, and for that I'm grateful.
On that note, thank you. I'm going to leave it at there. Cheers.
Yeah.